All right, so gentlemen, was it a penalty or was it not a penalty?
Oh, nothing to help us warm up. Yes, it was, and I don't think much more needs to be said. It's a penalty.
All day, every day.
Penalty every day.
All day, every day, and twice on a Sunday?
Danko.
Welcome to the Betway Premiership Review Show. Now, from the magnificent Maswanganyi to super sub Shalulile and the unbeatable Bogdanovic, the Betway Premiership had something for everyone except for amakhosi ngoba basakhala namanje. Kuse mina uvusiwe intokazi yawanqobo, and welcome to the show that will relive and reevaluate this past weekend's performances. While we do that, our co-coaches will put together a team that we like to call the Weekend Special. And first up from our co-coaches is Bethlehem's finest, the man, the myth, and the makeup finisher, Mazola Mulife.
Who writes these things?
The man, the myth, the legend. Interesting one this weekend?
Yeah, good one. Obviously, Soweto Derby, worth the hype still, even though it wasn't the fireworks that we expected, but it's a Soweto Derby nonetheless. I mean, that crowd, it never gets old. It really never gets old. But my favorite game of the weekend, I must say, Super Sport Amazulu. That was a good game. It was a good game. 3 goals in that. Pity for Gavin Hunt, still on a a winless run, but good game nonetheless.
All right, so that is the super journo, Bethlehem's finest. Joining him is the mayor of Polokwane. His heart is in Durban, but his body is in Jozi, a true man of Mzansi, Grant Bissett. Grant, from your vantage point, this past weekend of action?
Yeah, I mean, besides the headline fixture that kind of takes the spotlight, it was good to see, without the CAF obligations, all the teams playing. Okay, Roy Liam, but a full fixture list, shall we say, and some, like you said, really good games as well over the course of this weekend.
Yep.
And we'll be unpacking that for you right here on the Betway Premiership Review Show. Now, league action resumed with Richards Bay, Eshayana Nemakesi baze babhekane emehlweni without any one of the two teams finding the back of the net. So our selections from this encounter naturally don't feature any forwards, but we do have a midfielder that doubles up as a forward, and these are the gentleman's top pick in that encounter. Alves Chipazeze in goals, Mzwandile Buthelezi as our defender, and the man who stands for both the midfielders and the forwards is Tato Mahlome. All right, and we move on from that, Grant, and we take a look at Stellenbosch FC up against Kukune United, ending in a stalemate. Top picks.
I think Stellenbosch will be very disappointed, firstly, and they're the team that keeps dropping points from winning positions. It's now more than any other team, 11. And to not then get a result against a 10-man side. So I've got for Badra Sangare, standout, made so many saves. Elis Ramala as our defender, Tumani Butsaka, and then bit of a tough pick up front, trying to identify someone. I've gone with Devon Titus.
Devon Titus, that's the top 4 in that encounter where we, of course, did see Stellenbosch FC and Sekhukhune United. And finally, in terms of our quick fire ones here, Mazola's favourite game of the weekend, Amazulu up against SuperSport United, Usutu with a 2-1 victory. Our top picks there, Mazola.
Yeah, obviously, Richard Ofori, due to the fact that obviously he at least gets to keep one out. Rian Hanamub in defense, I thought he was solid as well. Rowan Human, I picked 2 midfielders here because their attackers, in as much as I raved about it as a good game, but their attackers, left their scoring boots at home for sure. But Rowan Human, stunning opening goal. Sihlen Ndlovu as well with the equalizer, but overall solid performance from those 4 picks.
All right, and that's how it's looking in terms of our quick fire picks in that one. Now it's time to get stuck in, and there's no better place to start than South Africa came to an absolute standstill on Saturday when the Soweto Derby delighted Mzansi. I don't know about the delight part, but it was certainly a memorable conclusion to the game.
Imagine a Soweto Derby without any drama or a moment of sheer brilliance. It just wouldn't make sense. This one certainly wasn't a classic, but chances are that it'll be spoken about for a long time to come. Why? Well, it had both the drama and a moment of absolute brilliance. For a while at FNB Stadium on Saturday afternoon, it looked as though Orlando Pirates and Kaizer Chiefs would play out to a lackluster goalless draw, but the football gods had other plans. In second half stoppage time, Pirates were awarded a penalty after Relebohile Mofokeng was adjudged to have been fouled.
As Mofokeng almost wins it, Vuma is celebrating and a penalty's been given. Wow, what a turnout. Orlando Pirates with a chance to win it here in stoppage time.
Unfazed by the pressure of the situation, Patrick Maswanganyi audaciously chipped the ball as Amakosi goalkeeper Bruce Bavuma grasped at thin air.
Maswanganyi, little chip, little Panenka, and the winner, it would seem. Wow, that is brave.
That is brave indeed.
To try a Panenka in any game is risky, but to do it in a Soweto Derby, in injury time at the end of the 90, in front of 100,000 people, requires nerves of steel. If Pirates go on to win the title this season, that ice-cold moment from Tito will go down as one of the most important.
Hayi sonke sibonile ukuthi ambulance yasithembisa iphe amakhosi chest pains while endearing himself to Pirates' heart. But did he win over our tough-to-please technical team? Gentlemen, this derby is certainly not a classic by any means, but we had the drama, albeit at the end.
Yeah, I mean, we opened up just talking about it being it could have easily been a drawby.
Mm-hmm.
Oh well, we heard the coach disagree with you when you said it could have gone either way, and Jose said, I don't agree with you.
Yeah, I love it when coaches disagree with me. It makes good TV. But look, Kaizer Chiefs had their chances. They could. I thought, by the way, Lilepo was solid. I mean, when he come on, I think Kaizer Chiefs, if he's half the player that he was at, I think it was Al Hilal, Kaizer Chiefs really got a good signing there, and we're going to see what he can deliver. Thabo Kele struggling with the pace of the PSL, and also he hasn't played in a while because of his situation before leaving the club in Russia. But look, I mean, yes, not a classic derby, but not the worst we've seen over
We've seen worse.
We've seen some of the worst Soweto derbies in history in a packed crowd like that. Obviously, almost always a sold-out affair. But I'll take this one and live with it.
For you, Grant?
I have to agree. I mean, we were, probably 20 seconds away from reflecting on it very differently. But that's the thing. We have a big moment at the end. So that, of course, is going to be what everyone talks about and what everyone remembers the derby for. So at least there is something memorable. And yeah, I don't think fans of either side will be forgetting it anytime soon for a variety of reasons. So.
Indeed.
And agree, Lilepo, only half an hour on the field, but good signs. So.
Especially because it was a derby.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Let's then go straight into starting to pick our players that stand out. Of course, we've narrowed it down to a top 2 in every position, and we'll take one to go into our final list where we'll pick our weekend special. Let's talk about the goalkeepers, because on both ends you had them do and make saves that were crucial. I mean, as early as the second minute, we saw Modi trying to go at a Sipho Chain, and that little touch making all the difference there. And Vuma, who was hurt, I thought he couldn't see. My analyst thought he couldn't see, but he insisted on staying on until the very end.
You touched on the main point I wanted to make, in that if you look at the 2 goalkeepers and the saves they made, Bruce made more than double the amount that Sipho made over the course of the game. But I'm leaning towards Chain simply because of that Modi moment that you mentioned, because the complexion of the game changes. Yeah. And that's probably one of the best one-on-one stops I think I've seen this season in the Betway Prem. I mean, he goes down to make the stop where he anticipates, and then he stretches even further. It was unbelievable. And
remember, Chiefs broke away similarly in a league game against Mamelodi Sundowns, and Ronwen Williams couldn't stop.
Ranga. Yeah. I mean, obviously they went on and they overturned that deficit, but it could have been a different equation here. Yeah. So simply because I think I classify that as a game-changing save, game-changing moment. So he didn't contribute as many saves as Bruce, but for that, I'm leaning towards the goalkeeper for the winning side.
All right, that is Sipho Chain. He goes down as our goalkeeper in this clash. Let's then move on into the defenders, Mazolo, where we've narrowed it down to Tateya Wanedi-Tlokwe kanye futhi noNkosinathi Sibisi.
Yeah, I mean, I thought TT did a fantastic job keeping Mohau Nkota quiet. Mohau even had to be subbed because the coach obviously in the post-match interview is trying to protect him to say no tactical, but he was nowhere to be found.
But was it just him, or was it just a lot of players were nowhere to be found on the day?
Yeah, you could argue that Pirates started off slowly. I thought Chiefs Sesani kept making errors with these clearances, trying to find the next man. Case in point with the
Pulemudi breaking that was,
he did that a couple of times as well, where Chiefs failed to punish Orlando Pirates when they did that. So you could argue that Mohau was probably caught up in that little slow tippet start.
But then we're taking away from what TT did.
Yeah.
Because I think if you're talking about expectations pre-game when those lineups come out, where are the areas you're looking at? And from a Kaizer Chiefs perspective, in a quite a surprising lineup that you may not have.
And I think Jose Ribeiro probably didn't see it coming. He thought Bradley Cross would probably play as a left.
I definitely think he anticipated Bradley playing. And then, so you're saying, okay, TT's not going to get on the front foot as much as Brad, which is true, but it's not that he didn't. It was definitely times when he was available in space and receiving the ball quite neatly, which is not necessarily something he's known for. And then defensively stout as well. But just based on pure expectations, like where would Chiefs fans have been like, we have question marks? It would have been the two fullbacks. Maybe if you hadn't watched George Mutlow's performances over the last 2 weeks, you would have also been questioning that. So it was a surprising lineup, but then he turned up.
Yeah, solid. The coach starting to believe in him again. He's offering a different dimension. So if I'm choosing between Nkosinathi Sibisi and TT, would definitely be TT. Although Nkosinathi ends up on the winning side as well, keeping a clean sheet. But I thought,
but not nearly as much work to do.
Yeah, even when they changed and Nkota was out, TT was still outstanding for me throughout the 90.
All right. I want us then to get into the midfielders here because this is an interesting one. It's a Maketleni Makaula, the man that walks away with the man of the match in what was not the most exciting Soweto Derby, up against the man that in a Soweto Derby,
he does a Panenka.
Yeah. Like, that's another level of bravery.
He's brave, that guy.
Well, luckily this pick is falling on his shoulders.
Yeah, it's tough. And yes, I think a lot of people for the story, for sentiments, they want to give the man who scores the Panenka in a Soweto Derby in front of 100,000 people, say he should be our midfield pick. But
do you get to that point if you don't have a Makaula running in the
exactly.
midfield?
My point is Makaula. And we're talking about how Chiefs were so effective in the first half, even forcing Jose Ribeiro to make those changes because the Pirates midfield was so busy. Sesane kept making errors. Mbata was nowhere to be found. So Cash had to cover a lot of ground to make sure that Pirates...
Except for the ground where we saw Dlamini going to pull the top.
So if I'm picking here, I would go with the pick for the man of the match. I think it was deserved. I rate Makaula highly. Even at 35, the man still has engine of a youngster to keep up with all those Chiefs kids in the midfield and to be able to make sure that Pirates are sorry Panenka guy, but Cash Makaula.
Panenka. I actually saw that video on socials of him doing the same thing in one of those Kasi games. Years ago, like 2016, 2017. So, Hare Tito, maybe next time, so to wee into the shortlist here. All right, finally, we move into the front line. And perhaps this also gives us an opportunity to talk about how coming into the derby, a lot of people said this is the derby for the youngsters. But we really didn't get much of that from the youngsters in this
100%.
one.
It was billed as the derby for the youngsters. And Rena Mofokeng is here as one of our two potential picks up against Ranga. Because
contribution
to the results, to the win. He did have another fairly decent little half volley effort, but he was quiet. And again,
but isn't that what a great player is? Even if you have that quiet game,
when
it
there's 20
matters the
seconds
most,
left.
you-
Yeah.
I mean, some will argue he didn't really step up because it was not a penalty, but
Those of us that believe it was a penalty are like that influenced the outcome.
Yeah.
And credit to Ranga as well. I know you were impressed just by he did his job.
Yeah,
on the day.
he was booed a lot, and I understand the frustration from the fans, but I think from a hold-up play, taking shots at goal, even though a lot of them were straight at chain,
Yeah.
but he offered something where he's on the other side, Orlando Pirates. He ended up subbing Mabasa because he was ineffective, and Evidence Mahupa, when he come on, I thought he didn't do much.
So in a game where the forward players were a little flat just across the board, simply because his contribution had the most influence on the outcome, I'll put it really, but not to say that he had an outstanding vintage Mufokeng performance. It's not the case.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Captain number 2000 is the last player that goes into our shortlist here. In a derby where we saw 0 shots on target in the first 45 minutes of the clash. Very interesting. A summary then of how we're looking so far in terms of this encounter between Orlando Pirates and Kaizer Chiefs. Out in goals, we've got Sipo Chain. In defense, we've got Ditlokwe. When we move into the midfielders, we've got Makaula. And finally, wrapping it up in our forwards, we do have Redebogile Mufokeng. Now, in our second feature game, the Rockets of TS Galaxy keep shooting up under Beganovic, who doesn't know what losing is.
Aptly nicknamed the Rockets, TS Galaxy are flying high and are doing so at high speed. You'd have to go back to October 2024 for the last time TS Galaxy lost a match in the Betway Prem. For a club that hadn't collected maximum points in the first 5 matches of the campaign under former coach Sejad Ramovic, their turnaround has been nothing short of incredible. They extended their unbeaten run in the Betway Premiership to 9 matches, beating Cape Town City 2-0 at Mbombela Stadium on Sunday afternoon. Galaxy's goals were scored within a period of 6 minutes in the first half. Samukelo Kabini put the hosts ahead before Zenan Zaimovic produced a classy finish just before half-time.
It's gone in under the crossbar! Scored his 5th goal of the season against City. And the new Bosnian signing is on fire.
Unbelievable.
And as you can see, Beganovic has taken TS to another Galaxy, having looked like they were going to get relegated. Let's now see who from the Rockets earned a place in our poll. Out in terms of the forwards, Zatmovic going up against Sibilibili.
Busier was Sibilibili, but I can't go against.
Yeah, not after
Zamovic.
that speech.
Yeah, no.
That was a long speech.
Yeah. Zaimovic has to be him.
Yeah,
He's a straight.
He's made a
And the goal
strong
was
case.
magnificent. It wasn't just a goal. I mean, it was a special goal. Yeah.
All right, so we take in there Zatmovic as our striker in this encounter. Mazola, let's then move into the defenders because Grant touched on it slightly a little bit in terms of how they've been working overtime, the young defense. We look at a Max Munyai, who in the other last encounter got man of the match performance going up against Ukhulumani Ndamane.
Ooh.
Azishege.
Yeah, it's a tough one. You guys know how I feel about Ndamane. But I thought Max showed his experience. It come through, even, bombing forward, his crosses. It's vintage Max from the Highlands Park days where he was edging ever so closer to making a Bafana appearance as well. I love the young man who's impressing me with every game, but I have to give it to his senior, Max Munyai. I thought he was
I
solid.
cookie material. I love it. All right, so Max Munyai is our defender there. Let's then perhaps go into goals.
I think Dape picks himself here with being able to get a clean sheet. A couple of offside decisions here and there, affecting both sides really. But with better side, I thought Dape, when called upon, with a relatively. Cape Town City were not at their very best. We know what they've done. I mean, in
they
the
come up
previous months.
against Chiefs and Pirates.
Yeah, but when they seem to forget their scoring boots and their
Gonzalez
performance.
tried.
Yeah.
He did.
And maybe unlucky hitting the upright, but yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's an easy pick. I think it's Dape is our number one there.
All right, finally, Grant, I come to you then in terms of our midfielders. In this one, we've got Umahlangu going up against
I'm going to
Umbunjana.
do what he did in defense, and I'm going to go with the elder statesman, but for good reason. Bunjana just, when he's on, he's capable of running a midfield one man. One possession more than anyone else on the field.
He's got the
Most
energy.
passes of anyone on the field, 96% pass accuracy, and that's not just sideways and backwards all the time. For me, it was an easy decision, Munjana, hands down.
All right, let's get a confirmation then. Starting from the forwards, we've got Zatmovic, then we've got Mbunjana as our midfielder. Our defender is Munyayi, and finally, in terms of the goalkeepers, we've got Tape there. Finally, the Brazilians put on a performance that showed who were the men in Obani Abafana. This when Arrows visited the nation's capital.
Miguel Cardoso has been a Mamelodi Sundowns coach for close to 2 months now, and what should worry Premiership rivals is that the reigning champions seem like they're just warming up. 5 matches into his reign in the Betway Premiership, Cardoso is yet to experience the feeling of dropping points. And the 4-0 victory over Golden Arrows at Lucas Muripe Stadium on Sunday evening may have been a clear indication that Sundowns are finding their rhythm under the Portuguese tactician. Lucas Ribeiro Costa opened the floodgates from the penalty spot in the first half, netting from 12 yards to make it 7 goals in the league this season. Peter Shalulile then got in on the act when he got his name on the scoresheet after the hour mark. The Namibian spectacularly volleyed home from close range and then completed his brace 10 minutes before time. Teboho Mokoena wrapped up an emphatic victory with a deflected long-range effort as the Tshwane Giants reopened a 6-point gap at the top of the standings. It was a perfect way for Sundowns to warm up for this week's matches against SuperSport United and then the big one against Orlando Pirates.
Nomveta's goal-scoring record is going to fall, it seems, and the high-flying Peter Shalulile wants to break it as soon as possible. Cardoso was ruthless with how he pulled out of Spelele Mkhulise in the first half for the Namibian international. Are our co-coaches as calculated when it comes to making decisions for the good of the team? Let's start with another simple one. Goalkeepers, let's go. Williams up against Watenga.
You're right, it's simple only because we can't pick Watenga, but one makes like one save in the game. But yes, he's in for the sake of creating a pool of goalkeepers.
Yes.
The story. It's Williams, yeah.
It's for the story. It is Ronan Williams that then goes down into our books. Let's move into the midfielders where we've got a very interesting matchup here. Shortlisted to Lucas Ribeiro Costa, who is going up against Teboho Mokoena.
That's another Bethlehem's finest, the Teboho Mokoena, you know. But I'll try not to be biased. Look, if I don't, I will be slaughtered if I don't pick Ribeiro. That guy is by far the best player in the league right now. You know, come for me all you like. That guy is by far the best player in the league, and he showed. He showed yet again why he's a different class. You know, I'm shocked that this guy played in a lower division rod before he came to Mamelodi Sundowns, and if should he leave, you know, Sundowns definitely should be aiming to get him at a higher league, just better than the PSL. So, without having said much, Teboho had a great game as always, most of the time. But Lucas Ribeiro was just the star of the show alongside Peter Shalulile, I thought.
Let me just make sure I got one thing right. Mazolo, you said he's the best player in the league right now.
He's by far.
By far. Grant, let me bring it back to you then. In terms of defenders, we've got Aubrey Modiba going up against Malibongwe Khoza.
So I think it's become apparent. Come on. But this boy is a star. Malibongwe Khoza, my goodness. He's just...
Sundowns have signed 2 centre backs, so he better pull up his socks.
He barely puts a foot wrong. Just so natural on the ball.
Got the height.
He's got the height, which we don't always see. So we have some phenomenal centre halves that have, you know, emerged in our top teams. You know, Sisani, for example. But those players, Sisani, Sabisi, they are not towering above attacking players the way Malibongwe Khoza is. So for me, he has everything. I mean, in this game, only Aubrey and Allende touched the ball more over the course of the game than Khoza. And I wanted
did a solid job on Bongani Kele. I thought Bongani Kele...
Because he was actually... Arrows have needed that type of player, by the way. Bongani, since... Who did they lose to injury? Gosh.
No.
The other And the other big guy. Oh gosh,
The other big
but
guy.
yeah, they needed someone robust up front who's gonna. So yeah, he's a problem to deal with, Bongani. But yeah,
We silenced him.
Is that Kosa?
That's Kosa. As much as Aubrey is always
Reliable.
Reliable, and you know how he will provide an extra
postman delivers.
Number, but it's got to be Mali.
Yeah.
Okay. This one I think is just for the sake of it, ne?
It's obvious.
Just for the sake.
Ah, it's obvious.
Mbongani Cele going up against Peter Shalulile. Who's our striker?
This guy is quality, man. I get goosebumps talking about what I've seen so far from Peter Shalulile this season, where there's obviously multiple reports about him leaving the club, not renewing the contract, this and this and this and that. He just keeps his head down. Even a new coach comes in and he can't keep him out. Because look, if you've watched Sundowns games, you've seen that Sundowns are trying to give Artur Sales more game time so that he can adapt and probably because of the Brazilian connection, play closer to Ribeiro. But Shalulile, every time he comes on to the park,
says, where?
he's like, where, my brother? I'm the guy here, you know? So Peter Shalulile, vintage performance, deserving of a Man of the Match award.
All right, deserving of a Man of the Match, also deserving to be on our shortlist. Mamelodi Sundowns fought to the good in this one against Abafana Tende, and these are the players that we've shortlisted. Out in goals, we've got Ronwen Williams. We then move on into defenders, Umalibongwe Khoza. In our midfielders, we've got Lucas Ribeiro Costa, and finally wrapping it up, the man who came off the bench and made all the difference for Amasandawana is Peter Shalulile. Now, the strikers' battle to make the weekend special offered us the most entertainment this weekend. Let's see, starting with the strikers, which players' performance earned them a place in our poll. Let's go with the strikers. Let me recap for you who you have to choose from. In terms of our feature games, we've got Shalulile, we've got Zachmovic, we've got Mufokeng, and then moving on into our quick fire encounters. We didn't have one in the Richards Bay Magesi game, but we did have one in our Stellenbosch versus Kukune game, and that is Devon Titus. And then finally in the Amazulu versus Supersport United, we've got Spesi Shendlo.
No, he's
No,
not
we've got
What about
no
midfield
one.
group?
So, I
We've got
mean,
no one.
We've got no one
we basically
there as
only
well.
have to exclude one. I mean, it's so obvious that Zamovic and Peter Shalulile go straight in there if we're going with our normal 4-3-3. And then it's just a matter of who are we picking,
Between Devon and Riley.
which on a different weekend, neither might have been in the pool, actually,
Yeah.
to be quite honest. Just for an overall contribution.
And
maybe
knowing you
Devon.
what is the biggest game in the country.
Yeah.
Oh, and then I just said Devon, but anyway, yeah.
I heard that.
Maybe
I
Devon.
heard that.
Yeah, we can put it in.
Did he say Devon? That's funny. No, really. Put really. This guy is being silly.
All right. That's the youngster who will be leading us here alongside Shalulile as well as Zachmovic. And then perhaps we can move on into the goalkeepers.
Yeah.
Alright.
Look, again.
I have a name, but I'd love to hear.
No, I
Your
feel
thoughts.
I feel like if we look to, for me, if I narrow it down, I'd probably narrow it down to Sipho Chain and Tape. But again, that big save that Sipho makes in the first minute of the Soweto Derby jumps out at me again. And I think when Ranga did have a few opportunities, which had it been a slight, poor positioning on Sipho's part, could have gone in, but he was position went all the time. And look, in as much as Tape keeps a clean sheet, Cape Town City were not that much of a threat, to be honest. So I would lean more towards Sipho.
All right. So we've got our goalkeeper, Super Chain. Let's then move on to defenders. We're going to pick 4 from the shortlist that we currently have. So we do have Umalibongwe Khoza, we've got Max Munyayi, we've got Tatea Wanedi-Tlokwe. And then in terms of the other defenders we've got here, we've got Umzwandile Buthelezi, Ellis Ramala, and finally our last defender is Rian Hanamud.
So I really kind of had a 4 in my mind, and then maybe you can disagree on that 4. I think Titi deserves to be in there. I think Ellis Ramala, very good in a game where his side had to do a lot of defending. Marks Munyai actually more for a positive contribution further up the field than actually his defensive work. And then Malibonga Kosa.
Yeah, I agree. No arguments there. So we can skip right through that one.
All right, I think I missed one though. I've got Koza, Ditlokwe, Munyai,
And Ramallah.
Ramala,
Yeah.
Ellis. Okay, there we go. Those are our defenders. It's looking good. Finally, one of my favorite parts of the field, the midfield. Do you need me to recap?
No. I think we just
Oh, do you already also
we're just
have
hamstrung by the fact that we can only pick 3.
Yeah.
Of which I think
and you
Lucas
have to
has
say
to.
bye to 3.
I think Lucas has to be
Lucas
there.
has to be there.
Yeah.
I think
The
Cash.
day Mazola drops Lucas.
I agree with that as well. I think
So
Makaula.
they already got 2.
And we're picking one more. For me, I lean towards Rowan as one of the midfielders who scored a goal this weekend along with Tumani. But yeah, I think Rowan Human for me, but I'm open to
Yeah, I mean,
disagreements.
initially I'd picked those 2 in midfield because, Rowan was a standout player. I thought Sipesihle was absolutely brilliant for SuperSport United. So there's a bit of a headache, but if I had to pick one between the 2, yes, I know he scores a scorcher.
But it's actually in Ndlovu.
But it's actually in Ndlovu for me that did the hard work, that put in a shift.
So guys, Panenka, Niamshia.
Panenka, sorry.
Weekend special. All right. So we've got our weekend special 11, and I've heard you guys already hinting at who the coach is. Let's just get a confirmation of the man that leads the team.
He's the man who hinted. He must tell us.
He did hint on Miguel Cardoso.
It's a game Sundowns should always win. But the manner in which they did it and the hurdles that they had to overcome, I think for me makes Cardoso the obvious pick for our coach of the week.
Agreed.
You agree?
Tactical
look
masterclass. I
Yeah.
agree. Yeah.
Now, this is why the likes of Richards Bay FC and Mike Gessie tried to poach our co-coaches. They know what they're talking about, but the coffee we offer here is much, much better than that. And they would get at Natal Rich Boys or Mike Gessie doesn't come anywhere close. So this is why they stay. They will be back again next week, cooking up another team teeming with talent. From Mina Ovusi Windogazi Nobo, Grant Bissett, the stats man, Mazola Mulife. We called you the makeup man. We'll see you again next week. Until then, good night and God bless.